It's another great day in Quad Radio USA. I'm Rodney Tomlin, and today we talk with three-time GNCC Champ Walker Fowleris. We want to take this opportunity to say thanks to our good friends at Impact Solutions. The Impact Solutions Group, of course, is your factory-authorized service dealer of Elka suspension. Be sure and call them up or hit them up on the World Wide Web or stop by their location at any GNCC and, of course, ATV Motocross. And as we roll into another great edition of Quad Radio, I say that because we talked to one of the greats of GNCC, and I think right now currently ranked third on the all-time wins list, if I'm not mistaken. I'm talking about none other than Walker Fowleris, of course. And Walker, what do you got, like 39 wins or something like that now?
40, so I'm actually still fourth, but I'm catching Barry. I think Barry Hawk's got 48 or 49 on the ATV. Now, obviously, his total is a little higher than that, but
Right.
we're getting
Well, I mean, that's still a pretty impressive number. I mean, it's hard to think whenever we start thinking about numbers right now, looking at that number 73 that Chris Borch currently owns. And man, came so close this past weekend in Georgia to claiming number 74. But, I mean,
sure.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I know you probably got a take on that. But I mean, it was it's pretty neat to think about that. And honestly, 3 championships in, you start doing the numbers with as many wins if you got under your belt and the way things are looking right now. I mean, it's kind of conceivable to think that you could reach that mark, man. And that's a pretty high pinnacle whenever you look at numbers in GNCC. But that's one thing we can say about you is you're all about breaking records and shattering the numbers, man.
Well, it just kind of works out that way, I think. But if we do it, great. If we don't, hey, we tried, and I think, my goal, I think, at the end of my career is going to be just if it's a name that's remembered at least in some sort of good way, and not like, oh, that jerk Walker, yeah, every time his name gets brought up, and everyone gets mad, that would be a bummer. But like I said, if it's all good stuff. And, it was cool that we were able to achieve a certain number, or there's a memory, or, made a difference, I guess, then that's what we're aiming for.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I think it's great, and I love the domination that you certainly have. But I do have to say, from a standpoint of a race fan, sometimes you make it a little boring, man.
Yeah, and that's it, on a personal note, I love that. When the races are boring and everyone's complaining, that means I'm doing my job above average. I don't love the close races. There's a lot of factors in GNCC racing that can play a pretty big toll on you if the racing is close. So I like to get a gap and manage my own race because I feel like I have a little bit of control. Not that I'm a control freak or anything crazy like that, but it's a good place to be when you have a little bit of a cushion to make a few errors, because in GNCC racing, at the level that we're doing it at, you're going to make a mistake. It's just whether or not how costly it is. Big buck, I got the whole shot. I went into the woods. I hit the first tree on the track. I went to second to last, but Chris Borch was the only rider behind me. Came through the first lap with a 15-second lead. Everyone else made more mistakes as the race at that first lap. A lot of pressure, a lot of testosterone is running at like peak performance at that first round of GNCC racing. And it was just people doing the dumbest stuff, like the best riders. Your Adam Gills, your Jared McClure's, Chris Borch's, all made really rookie errors. And I made it too. I hit the first tree on the track. One line this way, one line that way. I went straight in the middle and hit the tree. Dumbest thing I've done, I would say, in a long time. But I haven't really had a clean race yet. So, that's that instance where having some sort of gap build up would be nice if I'm going to be an idiot and hit a tree. Case in point, 2 weeks later in Florida, we have about a 15, 20-second cushion going into lap 3, and I have a crash. Now, somewhere between where I got a pit board and where I crashed, I must have got a little bit more of a gap, because by the time I remounted, I still had the lead, but it obviously closed up a bunch. But had it been a close, tight race, they would have taken advantage of that. And then then you get arm pump, and then you start overthinking things. Versus I just got back on and started going. The machine was bent up, but I was still in the lead and still feeling confident, so I just went for it. This past weekend, got a decent start at the general round 3. Get a decent start, get shuffled back. A few dumb little things happened out of my control. Worked my way up back to second halfway through the first lap. Chris Borich was trying to block my line. I was going for the pass. We come together. Race incident, no biggie there. But I just got off the track just enough where I was going to hit a tree. So I stopped before I hit the tree and jump off. And I go to push the four-wheeler over, and I didn't quite get off the tree, and I hit the tree anyway. And then every lap or every rider behind me in pro class, what's that?
I said, where was that at exactly? I may have hit the same tree that you hit. I went out and rode the track on Friday.
Yeah.
About the
this
3
was
mile.
around the 5 mile marker. This was around the 5.
Okay, I was around the 3.5.
Yeah. So this was one of those costly errors where it's the beginning of the race. The racing is still tight. 1 through 20 is all on top of each other. And it put me back to last place. And when I got back on the trail, I couldn't find anywhere to make up time, make up passes. I lost a minute the first lap, and I got beat by a minute at the end of the race. So,
right.
And missing the podium is super uncharacteristic for me.
Right.
So, but 3 races, 3 mistakes. It was going to bite me at some point, and it finally did. So the key here is there were riders to take advantage of it this time. Chris Borich, obviously Bryce Neal taking the win, Jared McClure, and Cole Richardson, which I was pumped to see him. I obviously love when he's behind me. I love it when all those guys are behind me. But
right.
It was awesome to see him have a good race, and I just wish I could have been a part of it. I hated being a minute behind the entire race and not even being in the part of the action. There were actually people that didn't even think I was racing. Like that's what hurts me. They didn't even know I was there. So you'll have that, right? That's part of the sport, man. You're in the limelight one day and forgotten the next.
Well, you're only as good as your last race, as they always like to say, man. So you're 5th place guy, dude. I mean,
suck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in reality, Walker, think about it. I mean, how many people in the world would give their eye teeth to be in a 5th place position against the best off-road racers? And I'm going to say this with all the confidence in my heart and mind and soul, the world, to be top 5 like that. I mean, especially on a track like that. That was a pretty tight track. They've changed things up on that racetrack a little, and they've tightened things up quite a bit. But that one had a lot of tight, but it also had a lot of open. I mean, good flow, but man, you had to be careful through those tight sections. It was almost enduro style stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think our track crew did a great job. That track's been really hit and miss for me. I've had years there. I think our first general would have been 2004. And it's just crazy. Like this year, it didn't really seem like there was much red clay. I thought that was very fascinating. We've had years there where you come off the track and you look like the orange booger monster.
Mm-hmm.
This year was more of a topsoily, sandy, weird dirt. The only place it was red was the Monster Mile humps. That was the only place on the track where there was red dirt, and I thought that was fascinating. So obviously they found a lot of new sections, or the property has changed in the 3 years that we weren't there. So, it was cool to be back. Obviously, I didn't love where I finished, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad track. Some of my least favorite tracks I win at, and they're still my least favorite tracks. Some of them my favorite tracks. When I get beat, they're still my favorite track.
Right. I totally get it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes, I mean, winning isn't everything. I mean, it's the time that you have. And, you mentioned, Walker, that you like to stretch things out. And I told you, it makes it a little boring. And we've seen, like, Chris Borich in the past has been the type of guy that always liked to keep I don't know if that's by design or not. It seemed like it at the time. He liked to keep the races tight until the last lap or so. Do you, I mean, obviously you like winning that way. Do you find any repercussions from winning that way? I mean, in seriousness, I mean, because You made mention of it. You even said it, oh God, mention Walker Fowler's name. Do you think that winning like that can turn people away sometimes and I'm not trying to be hard, but I mean, seriously,
No,
it's the reality of it.
100%. And I would say I kind of had hoped, the early days when people saw that dominance, like in the XC2 ranks in our undefeated season, I think it was a good thing then. People thought it was just, very impressive, very cool. They were excited to see what I was going to be able to do in the pro ranks, because there was no way it would ever happen in the pro ranks. So they wanted to see where I would stack up against the competition. And which obviously was the dominating factor of Chris Borich at the time, who had probably only had 2 championships at that point. We jumped into the pro class, and the races were always tight. Chris was at pretty much his pinnacle, I believe, and I was obviously still trying to figure things out because the pro class is totally different. And we didn't have those huge stretched out wins. You might get one here or there in a real bad dusty race or a real bad mud race. Like I can remember, I don't remember if it's 2012 or 13. Chris Bithell won a real bad mud race when we went to Foxburg. I think he won by like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was just the day. It wasn't the fact. He was obviously an incredible rider, so I'm not taking anything against or away from him. But, you didn't start to see that until kind of recent with me, I think. And it's just an evolution of the sport my preparation and my training, my mindset, the way I like to do things. Did Chris Borich like to keep it tight? I would say it just kind of was working out that way. And if it's working, why change it? And he's a guy that literally didn't change his shock setup for 5 years because it was working. Why change it? Motor package, training. I'm the same way. Like, I haven't changed hardly anything in the last 3 years because we've been so dominant and so successful. Now, the repercussion side of it, yes, the races have kind of started to get stretched out. And now the issue is I'm a cheater, because how can you go out against the top people in the world and win by minutes and minutes here and minutes there? And how could you have a minute faster lap? And that is probably the biggest issue, is that I'm a cheater. I'm not.
I believe that, and I honestly, but I also asked the question, and not because of you or anything, but being out front. I mean, whenever you're out front at those speeds and under the conditions and stuff like that, how hard is it to stay on trail within the 25 feet? And I'm sure sometimes it might differ or whatever, but I mean, how hard is it to stay within that 25 feet? And I mean, do you ever question it yourself whenever you're out there? Do you ever say, oh man, I might have pushed a little bit too much there, or anything like that?
I don't believe so. My thing is, I go as fast as I can on the marked trail, because if someone's already been there, the odds of it being safe are probably pretty good. And the second that you start trying to overthink about getting off the trail and remembering a line, you get distracted, and your attention is now deterred to something that may or may not work or may not be there. My thing is, stay on the track. It's the track.
Right.
And if a line develops, I mean, there's a lot of times, like now that we get to walk the track again, you look at something, you're like, I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket. And then after the 10 a.m. race, it's the main line. So you throw that out the window. And that's my biggest thing, is you can't overthink it. Especially at those speeds, because your reaction times can't be flawed, and you can't. The second you start thinking is when you start slowing down. I literally, when the green flag waves, I turn my brain off and I just go as absolutely fast as I can and just focus on not dying. And I think that's the, and same thing. If I was a cheater, I'd have been caught by now, or I'm way too honest. I had to turn myself in or something. I stay on the track to a T, guaranteed better than any other rider, because I'm afraid to get off the track and hit something at fourth gear wide open in the weeds that I can't see.
Okay. And that makes sense. But, and I think, if you look at it from a perspective, let's go back 10, almost 15 years ago, when U-Haul Salmonen came in on the two-wheel side of things. Same type of scenario. He rode the trail, but he found the smooth line out there somehow or another. He figured out that as rough as those lines were, those main lines, he rode the trail, and he rode somehow in between the main lines, the smooth part of it. Have you found the way to do that? Have you found your zen out there, I guess?
Definitely. And I think what's cool that I do is I think I can find it on the first lap. I can find a rhythm through sections where I can triple, wheel tap, quad, double, get into the turn a half inch to the left or right, get out of the main rut, the belly's pan dragging the ground. It's that kind of thing that I think that I found. Now, did I just let my secret out of the bag? No, because if you watch the videos, you can visually see where I go, and it looks the same, but it might just be that much off the track. And by off the track, I mean still on the same line, just crisscrosses and
it makes
finding a different rhythm through things. And suspension. Bill Balance's suspension head was crazy. That was his go-to thing. Was like not in good shape, or not that he wasn't good with motors or anything, but his secret to success was suspension, and he knew it. He would wake up in the middle of the night and literally jot down valve codes that he just had a dream about and go try it. Like, the guy was crazy. That way, no. But I'm very adamant about my suspension program and feeling, and a click here, a click there could be the difference at the end of the race of 30 seconds. If one click here is a tenth of a second return, well, then it starts to add up. So I think that's where I really sort of have a strong point, is my suspension, because I literally matured as a racer in a setting where that was such a strong fundamental. And the balance racing program, that was a huge. I mean, that was probably the best 3 years of my career was with those guys.
Right. Good learning time for you. I mean, it really set a standard for you, I think.
From the best that there ever was.
Exactly. So that obviously, you've got good roots, man. I mean, your mom and dad, they're good people. You came up. We know you're, the sincerity. I mean, you are a sincere person. There's no doubt. And you've grown up in a sport that, big picture, man. I mean, as much as I love quads and ATVs, I mean, big picture is, where's it going, man? Where is this sport going? I mean, we as racers, we as fans, we see it and dream of it going to huger and bigger things. But the reality of it is, manufacturers, man, Yamaha's about the only one making an ATV. And I don't know about rumors and stuff like that, but who knows if they're even going to be producing new models, brand new models for next year, or whatever the case may be. I don't know where anything's going, but the sport ATV market seems to be a little bit stressed right now, Walker. And I mean, here you are at the pinnacle of your career, and you've got, you're going to leave a legacy, but to what? I mean, it's kind of scary in a way.
Oh, it definitely is. Will it ever die? It won't. Is it possible for the manufacturers to go away? Yes. Has it happened before? Yes. And I think the tried and true stuck around and made it what it was for through, what was it, the late 80s and pretty much through the 90s.
Right.
And we might see that again. And, I don't know. I hope that maybe if that does happen, because obviously, like you said, Yamaha's the only one in the game right now. If any other manufacturers are listening, please make something, because we would love some competition. And competition's good, and that's true with everything. But it will never die. Someone will always want to race the four-wheeler. There's always going to be a place to do it at. I guess unless they ban them completely, which banning things obviously doesn't work either, given all the other things going on in the world. So I think sport quads are always going to be there. Is it going to be what it was? man, I don't know. When they first came out, it was like the cool new thing, and then it died, and then it came back with Bill Bounce and Barry Hawk, kind of at the end of his career. It was huge for what, 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So will it ever be that again? I don't know. I hope so. It'd be sweet. Will it be too late at that point for me? I don't know. I mean, if Johnny Gallagher can win races at 40 years old, then I feel like anything's possible. I like to bring that one up every time. I don't know. Yeah, it's scary, but am I going to make a difference as to what happens? Probably not, but I'm going to try. And if everyone involved doesn't want to see it die and helps try to move the sport forward, then we ought to be able to keep it afloat at least.
Right. And I've seen it, and I know right now there's manufacturers that have got these so-called hybrids. I know there's a factory supported team that is working on developing using the Honda frames and stuff with 4-stroke motors in them and things like that. I mean, they're coming up with some pretty innovative ideas. I mean, they're doing a lot of the R&D work. Where to go from there, I don't know. I really hope it does go someplace. But I know one thing where everything seems to be going right now, and you're even dabbling in it yourself, man. I mean, you're back to this 2-trophy weekend for yourself, man, with the running of the side-by-sides.
Yeah. Yep, we're doing it again. Made that decision all those 10 years ago. 10 years ago that we would only do one, and now we're doing it twice again. And it's fun. I enjoy it. I don't know. If I had to only race side-by-sides, I would probably, and I would have to highly think about if I would want to continue to do it, just because I don't really love it. But I guess I like racing. I like competition. And if that's what's in. I mean, if eating Tide Pods is cool, I guess we're all going to be eating Tide Pods. I don't know.
Well, okay. I don't know about Tide Pods, but side-by-sides are pretty cool. That threw me off. I kept thinking Tide Pod rod. My nephew sent me a garbage pail picture of this Tide Pod rod, and I did that vision came to my mind whenever you said that.
Yeah. But no, not to bash them. It's just, man, they're a lot of work, and they're expensive, and
they don't fall within the ATV realm. I don't.
Yeah, they're different. Like I like the two being separate worlds and coexist. I don't like one trying to push the other one away. Like they're totally different. It's literally, which I think that's kind of where the issue lies, and I'm a little nervous about the future of those things because they are so big and they are so powerful. And when you're in a roll cage and you turn your brain off, things get a little interesting. So I'm kind of curious to see. I know everyone thinks that the future of ATV racing is side-by-side. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that. I think side-by-sides are going to kind of be their own thing. And I think potentially in the future you're going to see why, because I think they're almost too much for what we're doing, if that makes sense. Like I feel like if they've become so much like a trophy truck, they're almost bigger than trophy trucks, especially the desert ones that are 4-seaters and all that. So I don't know. It's adapt, and it's fun. I mean, the racing action's incredible. I mean, we've had different winners pretty much almost every race last year, and they're, like I said, they're so big and they're so powerful. They are very fun to watch. They're just a little dangerous to be through the track. And I think that's where it's going to get them in trouble, is you almost need to have a closed course. And GNCC is trying to do that. You're trying to keep people out of the woods. Yeah. So now you're keeping a sport where the fans in the woods is pretty much the mainstay. And you're trying to tell people they can only watch a speed zone at the finish line when we're doing 10 miles an hour. That's kind of where I'm having a hard time loving it. I like driving it. It's a blast. The Yamaha YXZ 1000 RSS is a freaking blast to drive. That thing is literally like a little Subaru Impreza. Like, I love it. But finding where they belong to race is going to be the hard part.
I got an idea or two myself, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I just got to talk to the right people, but I think I've got the perfect place for that. If somebody will just listen to me and we can honestly, I mean, I'm not kidding. I've put a lot of thought into this. I really have, because I share a lot of the same concerns that you're doing with GNCC, man. I mean, I remember the first time that, I've been in, I just want to reiterate to people that Quad Radio is in no way or shape or form affiliated with MX Sports Racer Productions, other than the fact that I contract work through them doing announcing stuff like that. So, I'm not speaking on behalf of the company or anything like that. But, and I remember the first time we raced those, and there's been a lot of changes because, we put the whole class on the front row, and sent however many side-by-sides, 20 or whatever, into the first turn.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you learn real quick, no, you don't do that. I remember my exact words to Carrie Russell were, I went over to her and I said to her, I said,
that again.
well, here's what I said. I said, Carrie, I said, I don't know about you. I said, I don't have anything at all invested in this. I said, but you couldn't have drove a stick pin up my butt with a sledgehammer after that, man. I said, that was crazy.
I'm sure she had a similar response.
Yeah. Well, as you see, we made some alterations to the starts, and we tried to make that a little bit. And that's the idea with the finish line too, because I mean, we all know, and it kind of stinks that, they made those decisions, but I also see why they did it. I mean, that's a hot zone when you're coming in wheel to wheel, you're battling coming into that speed zone.
Absolutely. It needs to be there. It's the enforcing it part that's been a challenge and that I have a hard time with, because I feel like I'm one of the only ones that does follow it. But I love the idea. It needs to be there if they're going to race there for sure. I mean, I'm one of the ones in there, and they don't stop good because they weigh 2,000 pounds. So and they're fast. So it needed to be implemented. I love the idea, and I love that they're trying to do everything in their power to make it so we have a place to race them.
Right, exactly. And you got kudos to Racer Productions for doing just exactly that, because
absolutely.
I mean, anybody that knows business and promotions and liabilities, that's a pretty big one that they're taking on. There's no doubt, and my hat's off to them. I mean, kudos for sure.
For sure.
I mean, and they're doing everything in their power to help, grow the sports and of everything, but anyway, with that being said, I love UTV racing. I can't wait till it resumes. I know that there has been some, with your concerns on the 10-mile-an-hour thing, I know that I understand that they're working with some companies right now to create some things that will completely make sure that is monitored, and I don't think we'll have a whole lot to worry about that in the future. I think it may not be at the next round, but it's going to be something that comes into play pretty soon to make sure that is enforced. So, if all things continue the way they are, from what I understand. But at any rate, Walker, we've been on here a while, buddy, and I know you got a lot of stuff to do. I see you're in beautiful, sunshiny Florida, staying away from the colds of Ohio. Man, I can't believe we got snow. I spent all that time. I got this nice little tan, and I come back home and everybody says, oh, you look great, man. You look great. I'm like, yeah, my arms and my face and everything. Didn't get to spend a lot of time on the beach and stuff like that. But then I can't even show my arms off, and I got to wear a hat outside because it's so doggone cold.
Exactly.
I got my
all that hard work the sun did, and you got to block it.
I know. Look, man, I got a nice tan bald spot right here, man. I mean, I can't even show it off. Things are good in Florida. I guess you'll be heading to North Carolina. Well, I guess we're still a couple weeks away.
Yeah, it was good that I got my butt kicked, and then we had a pretty long break. It's given me some time. I took my 2 or 3 days and pouted about it, and had my pity party, and now I'm good. I'm good to go. And no, I needed it, man. I needed some motivation. You forget what it feels like to get beat, after you win so long, and I think winning actually kind of becomes so normal that maybe it doesn't lose its powerful succeeding feeling, but you definitely take it for granted. So then when I let that one get away from me, it definitely it kind of all comes rushing back to you. So it's good to have some motivating factors over these next. We had an extra week, so 3 week break basically. I'm gonna fly home the Tuesday before Steel Creek, ride a little dirt, ride my race bike there, and travel to the race with my father in the motorhome instead of me driving to the race. I've been driving to the other 2 events, or 3 events now. So we're kind of gonna get back on track of racing how it's been for 20 years, and come
Oh
home and
man,
help
the
wash.
rumor. Here's the rumors now. Walker's out of sync and out of thing. He's got to go back to the basics to get back to the winner
Yep.
circle.
I'm I'm a creature of habit and superstitious as all get out. And I ran through the list of things that maybe I did wrong or something. And guess what? Night of the race, my dad says I didn't wear the lucky underwear. And I was like, there it is, Dad. You shouldn't have even went. Why do we even go to Georgia if you're not going to bring the lucky underwear? Boom. There it is. But yeah, like I said, we're going to get back to basics. I'm not changing a thing. I love where I've been and where I'm at. So I'm not going to change now. A little bit more training, that you can never be in too good a shape. So obviously, I've kind of upped that a little bit, and I'm just gonna keep going strong on that, strong with the riding. I think now when I'm riding, I don't think like, let's see how big of a lead I can stretch out and push. Now it's like, okay, you're in 5th place. You have Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Chris Borich, and Bryson Neal ahead of you. Let's see how fast we can go for this hour of training. I did find myself kind of going to ride for an hour because I had to, not because I wanted to or had any reason to. So I've got a lot of reason to do a lot of things now, and I'm definitely fired up. A little low key. I'm kind of a low key guy, but I'm fired up. I'm ready to go.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to see it. Now, I'm going to ask you, sitting in my seat, it was pretty exciting. I had a 73-time winner, 6-time GNCC champion, battling wheel to wheel with a young man on the verge of his first ever GNCC win. And I'll be honest, man, from a fan standpoint, it was so hard. I couldn't choose. I didn't care who won. I'll be honest with you. I mean, but I just know that it was going to be huge. It was going to be big, and it was going to be good for both of them, and especially one of them, no matter who won. And I just got to ask you, from sitting back there in 5th-place position, who are you rooting for?
Jared McClure. Or Cole Richardson. That is because I was doing the math in my head on points, and I'm like, man, if Cole or Jared could get ahead of these guys, it's gonna help me because I can't help myself today. So I need someone to help me. And nope, I didn't get that.
Wow, speaking of points, I never even thought about that. What did that do to the points here, Walker?
It wrecked him. It absolutely wrecked him.
All right, I'm gonna pull them up. We got them right
I
here.
got 5 up, which is basically a clean slate. 5 is what you get for a win. So, Mr. Bryson Neal, congratulations on pretty well, clean slate in the points after 3 rounds. Good job, buddy. And I think Chris is within 7 or 9.
Yeah,
he's right there now
at 64
too.
right now, so he's within. You got 76 to 71 to 64, and then your buddy McClure in 4th with 58, and Adam McGill with 56.
So. Yeah. So it tightened things up a lot, which. Mm-hmm. As much as I love winning and winning by minutes and all that, this particular race, I think, really attracted the fans back. People that maybe were like, "Well, another year Walker winning, that's no fun." They kind of get tired of it. So now we got a fresh winner. We got some faces that haven't seen the podium or haven't seen, being right there battling for, all your Chris Borge fans were on the absolute edge of their seat, which is great. everyone that's been rooting for Bryce and Neil. I mean, even a lot of my fans like Bryce, and so it's awesome that they got a win. And your Cole Richardson fans, the Cole train, man, he had that thing on the tracks and was just chugging Cole. So, we were just smoking out the competition back there. I know he had some small issues the last lap, but for someone who literally pretty much hasn't raced in a year and a half, it was great to see that. And, the Sneaky Snake hung in there for another podium, and I know he's hungry. And it's a good time to be alive in GNCC racing. It could always be better. It could always be stronger, but we needed a race like this. I needed a race like this. I needed to get kicked square in the cojones and drop to the bottom and, get a taste of my own medicine. And I got it, man. It hurts to get beat by a minute. I don't like it. So I'd rather be on the other end, but it tightened things up. It made it exciting again. And we need that. We need that excitement, that thing to get the fans back in it, because without the fans, I have low power mode and it's not even noon yet. That's not good. But we needed it. It was a good weekend. Not my favorite, but it was good. It was good for the sport. It was good for the year, and I'm excited as a racer getting to be a part of it, man. It's cool to see Bryson get his first win, and I actually texted. I didn't get a chance. I was a little salty after the race, and it was just, like I said, my own little pity party. I should have went and congratulated him, but Sunday I sent him a message. I said, hey, man, think about this. In 2004, there was 36 or 38 riders that did the inaugural bringing back of youth racing in GNCC. I said, pretty much since that day, I'm the only one that's ever won a race in championships. I'm the startup basically after Johnny Gallagher to ever come back and to do every step of the way. And I said, you now are only the second to ever start with the youth and work your way up the ladder. I said, you haven't won a championship. I'm going to make sure that you don't, but we can let him get a win.
That's awesome.
So I just told him, I was like, I just want you to think that's pretty cool. Like, you should be proud of that.
And I'm sure he is, and I'm sure he appreciated that message. But Walker, thanks for your time today. I know we took a lot longer than what I anticipated and expected, but there was some good stuff you had to talk about there. And even with your back against the wall, man, you can make us laugh, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's there's no reason to be down and be whatever. It's one race. And even if it happens again, it's only going to make things more interesting. So, like I said, I had my 2 or 3 day pity party, and we're back on cloud 9. I'm still the man to beat, and until someone else proves that, even when they do prove that, I'm here to stay until the good Lord says it's time to give it up. So,
amen.
Man, sport of ATV racing just gets a little bit more exciting every week.
It does. Walker, thank you. That's Walker Fowler.
Yep.
I'm Rodney Tomlin. This is Quad Radio.